The following is an exclusive presentation of WI Garden Media, the voice of Garden Talk Radio. Coming up on the program today, we're going to talk about reestablishing some garden facts, as well as mistakes when canning. Our guest is author Dee Nash will be with us, and we'll answer your garden questions. The hour is full, so join us.
You are listening to the most informationally packed hour of garden-focused radio in the country and on the internet with your host, husband and wife team Joey and Holly Baird. This is the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
And welcome to another edition of the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. Very happy that you chose us to be part of your day. I am your host, Joey Baird. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner,
Holly Baird.
This program is for you, about you, to help your garden grow better, to maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make your grass look greener, as well as preserving what you grow. Happy you're tuning in, whether you're choosing to listen to us on one of the 18 AM and FM frequencies, broadcasting our program here in 2024, Season 8, through a podcast replay, an in-studio video replay, a radio app. However you're doing such, welcome and thank you. You want to be part of the program, you can do that by sending us an email to gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com, or give us a call anytime, toll free, coast to coast at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469. Before we get in the program, Holly, it's time for this week's joke of the week.
I have a classic gardening joke for you. It is what made the tomato blush?
It's all the lettuce. It's all the cucumber. It's all...
It's all the salad dressing.
It's all the salad dressing.
Yeah, it's kind of most people know that garden joke. Maybe not. I don't know. So this week's garden joke is brought to you by Rescue.com. American-made rescue products keep your family, home, and yard protected from pests, insects like wasps, hornets, yellow jackets, flies, ants, and more. Learn more at rescue.com. That's rescue.com.
So we're going to talk about reestablishing some garden facts, and we'll start with this one because we had this question come in a couple of weeks ago, and we've just gotten around to addressing it. We've answered the question in a timely manner to the recipient that asked, but how they had some kohlrabi seeds, and they were afraid that they were going to go bad. They bought them this year, and they weren't going to be good next year, which is not true. Garden seeds, based on how you take care of them and store them, can last a number of years.
Yeah, so that's correct. They can last depending on how you store them. If you store them in a cool, dry place, they're likely to last longer than if you just toss them somewhere and hope for the best.
Right. Yeah. There is the 100 rule. The 100 rule is if the temperature plus the humidity of the space equals less than 100, the numeral 100, you have a good storage condition. So, for example, if your seed storing area is 40 degrees Fahrenheit with 30% humidity, that's a total of 70. That's well less than 100, so you're in good shape. So that's kind of a really mathematical way of looking at it. You want to keep your seeds away from rodents, obviously. Keeping them in a dark place. They're sensitive to light. That can be a dark, cool place like you spoke about. Can you freeze your seeds? If cold is good, is freezing better, or is it right? If you are it's true about the seed banks, the one in Norway where they have the vault and all the seeds, if the world ends, they can reestablish everything. They are at 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Freezing is a great way to store your seeds for a long-term storage. But if you're planning on using them the next year, it's probably not the best way to go about doing it. Freezing seeds, seeds are completely dry in that aspect. When you are freezing seeds, you got to be careful of how you go about doing that. So for most of us, keeping them in a cool, dry place, such as the crisper of a fridge, a dark, cool closet, is fine. Works great. And how long if you're looking for a hard number, how long can seeds store? Your mileage may vary based on how you store them, but a rule of thumb, let's say beans, you're looking at about 3 years. Beets, you're looking at about 5. Peppers, about 2. Celery, 3. Swiss chard, 5. Rutabaga seeds, 4. Sweet corn, probably about 2 years, give or take. Fennel, endive, 4 to 5. Kohlrabi, watermelon, 5. So there's a number of charts online, but again, it all depends on how you store them. Now, I see a lot of charts where it says parsnips, 1 year. You don't want to store them anymore. Onions, 1 year. And parsley, 1 year. We had parsnips, yeah, because you don't like parsnips. They look like a white carrot when you harvest them. I heard this 1 year thing. And we had saved seeds. Oh, this would have been over 10 years ago. But anyway, we saved them and we just threw them in the seed box. And then we planted them like 3 or 4 years later. And every single one came up. We had to thin the seeds out. So, that may or may not be relevant to you. Leeks are 2 years. We've planted leek seeds longer than that. Now, with each year that passes, if you do, let's calculate if you have 100 seeds and all of them would germinate, in 5 years, you're going to have about 50% or half of them germinate. You lose about 10% every year. Just a rule of thumb, not a hard number. And we often will see in certain applications when we purchase seeds, whether online or in a catalog, it will say germination rate, 76%, or low germination rate. They will identify that to the buyer prior to purchase, so you are not expecting, that for whatever reason they've tested this and they found out these are not as great as we thought, so we need to identify. Most seeds are like 90 and 95%. Most packets of seeds, if not 100%, are viable.
So let's talk about the best place to store seeds in your home.
Okay.
So your kitchen cupboard typically would be ideal. Now, if you live in a place like, for us, we don't have central air conditioning.
Unclimatized area.
Yeah. So it might be like the temperature might not be cold per se, but it typically is temperature stable. It's not like we would, if we had a cabinet that had direct sunlight on it, we probably wouldn't store them in there. But for the most part, your home is going to stay the correct temperature for what you need.
All right, let's talk about Epsom salt does not fix blossom end rot.
Yeah, so this is a myth, almost in a way where people get this idea that Epsom salt fixes the blossom end rot. And what occurs is...
And if you're a listener to this show on a regular basis, you're tired of us telling you this. But we tell you this because there are people who will display their rotten or blackened bottom of tomatoes on social media and go, what happened? What I do wrong? And the first 9 comments is, add Epsom salt, soil deficiency, add calcium. Yes, it's a calcium deficiency because the soil has the calcium. There's not enough moisture in the soil to deliver the calcium from the soil into the roots of the plant. But people think they've got this tied in their head of Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate, which is not calcium. And I'm not that good in science, but I know you can't take one element and substitute for another and get the same result of the one that you're missing.
Right. So what happens is that, blossom end rot is the lack of uptake of calcium to the plant. So what happens is that a lot of us will plant our tomatoes, kind of go about our weeks and even months or whatever it may be, however long. And then we get some rain after you plant them, and you might not be as diligent about watering your plants as you hope to be. And so what happens is the first round of tomatoes has blossom end rot. And it's because the calcium is locked up in the soil. Even
now, we're in the middle of August. I'm seeing that we're seeing this on a regular daily basis on social media. What's going on? It's hot and dry.
Right. It's hot and dry. Now we're not getting as much rain. So what happens is that you put the Epsom salt on and you water it in. And the way you think that the Epsom salt is what did the trick, but it was just simply the watering.
Yeah. So keep that in mind. Another thing that we need to clarify is watering on a sunny day will magnify the sun rays. Magnification, the sun will go through the water droplets and just burn the plants up. This is not true because let's add logic to this, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, but anytime you have a problem in life or in the garden, we need to step back 3 steps and go, I need to think common sense about this, not a knee-jerk reaction. Does this make sense?
Yeah. What makes sense about
if the water droplets were on the leaves that you water and the sun rays went through and burnt them, it rains. Mm-hmm. And water droplets are on all leaves after a rain, and the sun comes out, and the earth would just be in a big, giant ball of fire because the magnification would burn everything up. If that was the case.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If that was the case, but it is not the case. And so
look at our garden burning up because of the sun rays magnifying the water droplets from the sun. I
can see the logic. I can see that the water droplets acts like a magnifying glass, and it's, we've all known that trick, or that kid, the neighbor kid who did things to ants with a magnifying glass.
The kid you didn't like.
Yeah, pretty much. So it makes sense in a way, but like Joey mentioned, if you think about big picture, it rains everywhere, every day, somewhere in the world, and there's sun shining down, and not everything's burning up. At least not from rain. So, yeah.
All right. We got time for one more here. Saving seeds from cross-pollinated squashes, particularly the squash family, where, that's what we're going to focus on here. There is, because they're in the same family, you can get a cross between a zucchini and a pumpkin. You can get a cross between a spaghetti squash and a zucchini. This will happen. This will happen if you plant them next to one another this year and then save the seeds. There's a good possibility that they could be cross-pollinated if you have a good pollination environment. And then if you was to plant them next year, you grow a pumpkin or you grow that zucchini seed that you saved or that spaghetti squash seed that you saved. And now you've got some type of mutation that it is edible, but it's not very fun to try to consume. Example, a cross between a zucchini and a spaghetti squash. You get a spaghetti squash looking thing, but you have a zucchini skin on it, and when you cut it open, it's kind of got a pumpkin consistency inside of it. It's not very tasty from the ones in which we have experienced with. Now, if you are growing them this year, you got a zucchini next to a pumpkin, next to a spaghetti squash, and you're not going to save the seeds, you're fine. They're not. The confusion is people think, they're going to mutate into that hybrid this year. That is only going to occur if the genetics are in the seed from the seed saver or where you bought them from, which now we have had that happen where we've planted spaghetti squash from seeds in which we bought, not junk seeds. This was before they became a supporter of the program. And we ended up with a spaghetti squash crossed with a zucchini and a pumpkin in there, something like that. So you can grow them this year. They will grow fine if you get them from a reputable seed supplier. If you save them this year for next year, there is that possibility, probably pretty high probability, that you will have a cross.
That's exactly it. So, real quick,
Waltons.
We should talk about Waltons here. We are brought to you today by our sponsor, Waltons Inc. Listen, we know you care about where your food comes from. Canning and preserving your fruits and vegetables is great, but what about the meat? At Waltons, you can get the equipment, seasoning, and supplies to make sausage, jerky, and any other meat product your way to your high standards. Do you want to make snack sticks that people will actually like? Waltons created meatgistics.com, an informational site to help you make the best finished product. Waltons even has a full line of their own meat grinders, mixers, sausage stuffers, and more to help you go from animal to edible. Walton's everything but the meat. You can use code GROW50 to save 10% off your orders of $50 or more.
When we return, we're going to discuss mistakes that canners make. You're tuned in to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
Garden like a pro in 3 easy steps and receive customized fertilizer recommendations for your garden or lawn. Soil Savvy helps you determine what nutrients your plants need to thrive. Never again over-apply nutrients they don't need. A patented process that makes you a smart gardener. To get your soil test kit, go to mysoilsavvy.com.
Blue Ribbon Organics, providing locally made organic compost and soil blends for gardeners, farms, landscaping, and more. To find our products nearest you, visit blueribbonorganics.com.
Happy 65th anniversary to David J. Frank, Southeastern Wisconsin's leading landscape company. Their award-winning services include everything from lawn care, landscape maintenance, design, construction, renovation, irrigation, sustainability, and more. Big or small, let the experts at David J. Frank handle the hard work for you. Find out more at davidjfrank.com. Deer Defeat is an all-natural based animal repellent to keep deer and rabbits away from your valuable plants that is odorless after 30 minutes and dries clear. It creates a continuous, invisible shield to protect your plants. Works for 30 days through rain, snow, and freeze. Will not clog your sprayer. Apply to your property without environmental damage. You can spray directly onto your plants up to flowering, then apply around your plants to continue protection. No need to reapply. Money back guarantee. To purchase, go to deerdefeat.com and use coupon. Make hand watering easy and enjoyable with HoseLink retractable hose reels. No more tripping over hoses, kinks, tangles, and avoiding rolling the hose up. With an automatic retractable hose link, saves you time and effort manually coiling up your hose, leaving your focus on the things that will bring you joy in your garden. Available in multiple colors and lengths, you'll be sure to find the retractable hose that works for you. To find out more and to buy online via hoselink.com, use coupon code RADIO10 for $10 discount. Mantis tillers, the premium long-lasting gas-powered tillers, are the perfect solution for any garden. This Mantis machine is available with 2 or 4 cycle engines with a 19-inch or 16-inch tilling width. Your DIY companion in your garden and your lawn converts easily for edging, aerating, and more with optional attachments. Find details at mantis.com.
We are back, and we're happy that you're joining us today. Moments away, we're going to discuss mistakes you may be making while you're canning, but first, a word from our bee friends at Honeybee Healthy.
Since 2000, Honeybee Healthy Inc. has helped beekeepers maintain healthy and thriving hives. Attracting pollinators to your garden this year is as simple as hanging a hummingbird feeder with a mixture of sugar water and Honeybee Healthy Original. Don't be alarmed to see birds, bees, and butterflies dining together at the feeder. Pollinators coexist peacefully. Honeybee Healthy Inc. is offering a 10% discount on an 8-ounce bottle of Honeybee Healthy Original to the show's listeners. Enter code Bee Garden, that's BEE Garden at checkout. For more information, mixing instructions, and to purchase products, visit honeybeehealthy.com.
Canning mistakes. Holly is a multi-award-winning Wisconsin state canner. The show originates out of southeast Wisconsin for those who may be new and are unaware of the origins of the program. And you can find all of our past programs and coupon codes that you hear during the show at our parent website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, underneath the Season 8 tab for this year and the Money tab for your coupon codes. So, mistakes that canners make and may not know that they are making these mistakes.
Yes, correct. So I want to go with like kind of an old one. I don't guess you call old, is flipping the jars when you get them out of the canner. People used to do this because of the wax on the top, and then
the paraffin wax.
Yeah. And then I think people just did this out of habit for some reason.
Well, I don't understand that it wouldn't have been the paraffin wax whenever they had the old zinc lids. Is that when this?
I think so.
Would have been, and because again, we talked about in the first segment, and if you're listening to a segment, you got to go back to that. Where does it make sense? Step back 3 steps and go. Common sense hat. I'm trying to get the jar to seal and to do the ping, and I need that air gap there in order to vacuum seal, but I'm going to flip it upside down and put all the pressure on that lid before it will seal.
I don't get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we see this is still a regular thing in canning groups on social media that you will see once a week at least. Somebody shows a picture of them finishing up and their jars are upside down. And then watch out for the comments. Because almost everybody says, don't do that, don't do that. And then there'll be 2 or 3 that will fight you to the death about why that's right to do it.
Right, exactly.
It is not safe. Don't do it. It is not recommended. The National Center for Home Food Preservation does not recommend that. They say it's wrong. So does ball canning as well.
Right. So another one is not using correct time for altitude. I know that some people will move around the country periodically for whatever reason, and then they don't think about their altitude. I mean, are most of us at sea level? Yes, but there's also a lot of us
KHNC 1360, the Roar of the Rockies out there. They're up there.
Yeah, who are way above sea level. So it is something that you want to keep in mind. Read your recipe.
It's good to know that anyway, whether you're canning or not. Where are you at above sea level?
Well, I'm sure there's other recipes that will.
When you're baking, it's important for the leavening. Yeah.
So keeping rings on to store. So the ring is the ring part.
The screw-on part
of your canning jar. And people will keep the rings on because it looks nice, or they just think it's proper or whatever. And actually, for a while, I thought that you were supposed to keep the rings on too. But then somebody explained it to me like this. I think it was my canning class instructor.
The master canner of Milwaukee County, Christina
Correct.
Ward.
Yeah. And basically, so if we're putting pressurized food, basically, into a jar, and so if something happens with that food, it spoils and it opens the lid up a little bit, then the lid will stay unsealed if you don't have the ring on. If you have the ring on, it could reseal, and you're not going to know that. So
create that vacuum again because it poof and then
suck back happen like some sort of chemical reaction.
And if it's already going releasing, something ain't right in that jar.
Right.
Something has gone funky.
Right, because we're putting perishable food making perishable food shelf stable. So you want to keep it as safe as possible, and keeping those rings on does not keep it safe, and taking them off is what keeps it safe.
That's what they used to do in the 1900s.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're in the 2000s now. And here's the thing. People still do get sick from improper canning even today.
Right, and that's another thing I'm going to talk about is cutting corners in recipes, and you're like, that seems like an obvious one. But you'd be surprised how many people are like, I'm just going to wing this, or I'm going to
take my time, or
I'm going to use this maybe proper ingredient. Like, for example, there's a lot of bottled lemon juice used in canning versus freshly squeezed lemon juice. And the bottled lemon juice does ensure that there's a consistent acidity throughout. And so if you use freshly squeezed lemon juice, you don't know if it's consistently the same acidity. So there's that kind of stuff. Or being like, I only have this cooking vinegar and I don't have white vinegar. It's probably the same. And most cooking vinegar, I think, is like
cherry vinegar. Yeah, there's multiple different vinegar. Right. Yeah. Well, and let's talk about vinegar. Used to be the standard. Used to be 7%. Then it backed down to 5%, which is kind of the standard for canning safeness. Now we're seeing
more like 4,
and even 3 in some of these off-brand. So you got to look at it. We've got to look at what we're putting in, because that acidity determines the safeness or the level of pH in the jar in order to preserve that food correctly. If you've got too little, you're dealing with a environment that is probable to bacteria forming and growing in your sealed jar. And that could be a lead to the popping off and exploding jars. And if you have that lid on tight, it's not going to be able to release. Either 1, it's going to reseal, or 2, it's going to explode like a bomb, and you're going to have pasta sauce everywhere. So that's another reason to take that lid off, or that band off, that ring, so when it explodes, it just pops instead of ba-boom, because if it's on tight enough, you could have quite a mess. Air pressure or inside of a jar. We're putting it in a boiled water bath or in a pressure canner. And you think about when you pop that can and you hear that, there's a lot of stuff going on there that we're not aware of.
It's true. There's a lot of science going on there. Using old recipes or concepts. So
I saw it online. It must be true.
Things like, this is maple bacon jam. You can't technically, jam is high fat. You're not supposed to can high fat meats like what did I just
sausages.
Say? I said I mean bacon is high fat.
Bacon's high fat, yeah.
Yeah.
Greasy stuff.
Yeah. So even though it's going in jam, it still could cause a problem. If you're like, oh, it's just a couple, teaspoons or something, it still could cause a problem. So you can make that jam, and you can do a refrigerator jam or like a freezer jam, but it's not safe to do a canned maple bacon jam. Say that 5 times fast.
But well, I can buy it at the store. Why can't I make it at home?
Because you're not an industrial kitchen. And that's why they have the heat,
they can pressurize this stuff at a magnitude in which you cannot achieve in your home kitchen.
Right.
I don't care how hot the fire is, how hot the stove is. You're not going to get there. And don't pretend like you are, because you're not.
No. So that's one huge problem is thinking, okay, I saw this on this, I really trust this person on this website, on their blog. They always give great information, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. You can trust them. That's perfect. But it is.
Is there a source that backs up what they're saying? Is there a source?
And, what is their, I don't know, what are their credentials? Like, we've even had people ask you and I what our, credentials are. So just because they seem like a trusted person or they're on, social media, whatever, doesn't mean that it's okay.
And point being, on our YouTube channel, which is titled The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener, we have 46 or 47 Canning What You Grow videos on there where you take in the kitchen and show how to process beans or tomato sauce or Jerusalem artichoke relish or variety of things. But in the description, you have a link from either Ball Canning or the National Home for Food Preservation. You have a link that directs you to the actual recipe in which you are coming from and teaching how to can that particular item. You're just not making it up, or you heard somebody, or Better Homes and Garden is another link in which is trusted. You can, as a viewer, you can go and click on that and go, okay, she's saying what's the recipe. Okay, that makes sense because the source says what she's doing, or he's doing, or whomever you're watching.
Right. And then just things like, your great grandmother's tomato recipe, or, tomato sauce recipe, or, for example, green beans. Joey grew up, his mom would can green beans via the water bath canner, and we've learned that green beans are not as acidic. And I'm not talking about dilly beans. I'm talking about just regular beans.
Canned beans.
Yeah, they're not as acidic as they used to be, and so now you have to pressure can them. Side note, I prefer to freeze mine because I don't like the pressure can green beans, but they're still a bit too mushy for my taste. But yeah,
something that I have not seen lately, but it has been a thing, is where people are reusing the flat lids or reusing jars that are not supposed to be, you get on these prepper sites. Well, this was a old mayonnaise jar with a mayonnaise screw-on lid, and I can just water bath it in that, and it'll seal. I hear it ping.
Yeah, let's not give people ideas. So, so you want to make sure that you are using the correct and up-to-date concepts, recipes, etc. You can probably find a very simple tomato sauce recipe just like your grandmother's. These tomato sauce recipes are not that complicated. They're typically the acidity is pretty much is a lot of times the addition of lemon juice in order to compensate for the lessness in the tomatoes. Right. That typically is it, adding lemon juice or vinegar or something.
But just don't guess at it.
Yeah, no, don't guess at it. But you can, if your grandmother's tomato sauce recipe is like X amount of tomatoes, X amount of onions, X amount of garlic, oregano, basil, whatever, you're probably going to be able to find something pretty similar online, because they're all kind of, I don't want to say they're all the same, but because there's roasted tomatoes or blah, blah, blah. But you can find something. It's pasta sauce. I don't want to, pasta sauce is pasta sauce when it comes down to it. So I guarantee you can find something that is safe and tastes just as good, and you're not going to risk, your health.
Well, we have people of all levels and lifestyles listening to the program, and I understand the prepper, and we take that word and it's blown out of context but I understand people whom grow food, can the food, freeze the food, hunt the animal, freeze that. I get that, but what my question is on these I guess they're labeled as doomsday preppers. They've got 40 years of food stored up in a culvert somewhere. If everything on the earth blows apart and there's nobody else alive and you're the only person here, what's your plan?
Right?
What's the end game here?
I don't know. Anyway, so with that being said,
if you've got an answer, gardentalkradio@gmail.com. There's one. Summer is in full swing, Holly, and the Japanese beetles are here, and they're not going away, but you can make them go away for good with Beetle Gone.
If you're looking to successfully control beetles without damaging the environment, look no further than Beetle Gone from Phylum Bioproducts. Derived from a naturally occurring soil bacteria, Beetle Gone is the only organic solution that successfully controls beetle invaders. Just mix the powder with water and spray on your plants. Once ingested, the targeted pests will stop feeding and die. And since it's an organic BT product, it's a great choice to use on your fruits and veggies in addition to your ornamental flowers and trees.
Not only does Beetle Gone work, but the best part about the product, it is safe to use around beneficial insects such as butterflies, ladybugs, and bees, and has no water toxicity. That's Beetle Gone from BeetleGone.com. That's Beetle Gone from BeetleGone.com. Hang out with us. Author Dee Nash will be with us moments away. You're tuned in to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
Have a garden question? Give Joey and Holly a call now or anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-SHOW. If you can't get through, leave a message and they will call you back. Call now 1-800-927-SHOW.
Take the guesswork out of composting with the AeroBin 400 or smaller 200 for easy composting. The AeroBin mimics how nature decomposes waste. The AeroBin is easy to use. You prepare your balanced organic waste, just open it up, drop it in, and close. After a short time, fertile compost is produced, which is easily accessed via the lower side door. The thermal insulation in the AeroBin conserves heat, leading to rapid breakdown of the biomass and works efficiently year-round, even in cooler regions. There is no need to turn the biomass, and it is pet and rodent resistant. It has little odor and can kill annoying weeds and seeds. It is BPA free. The AeroBin 400 or 200 comes with a reservoir at the bottom to collect the leachate. When diluted, makes for great compost tea liquid fertilizer. AeroBin composts kitchen and garden waste quickly. Easy to assemble with no special tools needed. The AeroBin makes composting rewarding and easy. Go to burpee.com or homedepot.com to purchase. Protect your plants from damage with the 3-in-1 Plant Guard and Special Blend Fertilizer. Visit ivorganics.com. Use promo code RADIO10 to save 10% off your order. Are you ready to take control of your home's comfort? With Mr. Cool DIY Direct, empower yourself with our top-notch do-it-yourself cooling and heating solution. Introducing the Mr. Cool 4th Generation Mini Split, the DIY-friendly way to keep your home perfectly comfortable all year round. Our systems come with everything you need for installation, including our patented pre-charge line sets, eliminating the need for expensive professional help. Visit MrCoolDIYDirect.com to learn more and to take the first step towards a cooler, more comfortable home. Don't forget, use promo code GARDEN for a special discount and free nationwide shipping. Mr. Cool DIY Direct. Cool your house, heat your space, all by yourself. Pomona's Universal Pectin is a high-quality pectin that gels reliably with low amounts of any sweetener. If you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar in your diet, you'll love Pomona's Universal Pectin. Now you can make healthy homemade jams and jellies sweetened to your taste. You can use sugar or honey to sweeten. Pomona's Universal Pectin keeps indefinitely when stored in an airtight container. Easy to use, versatile, and comes with directions and recipes in every box. Find out more and where to buy at PomonaPectin.com. Also available at natural food stores and online.
Rootmaker starts your plants off right and keeps them going through harvest. From their seed starting trays with an innovative design that air prunes the roots to their large variety of grow bags, 1 to 60 gallons. Their products will provide you the harvest you've never seen before. Visit rootmaker.com. Use coupon code ROOT24 to save 15% off your order at rootmaker.com. That coupon code is ROOT24 to save 15% off your order at rootmaker.com. If you could double the life of your raised bed boxes by sealing the wood with a clear non-toxic wood preservative, would you? Well, now you can with a clear, penetrating product called Internal Wood Stabilizer. It's 100% non-toxic and easy to apply. Seal your untreated wood surfaces, even chicken coops, by spraying on Internal Wood Stabilizer. It's invisible, seals the wood from the inside out, and never wears off. Recommended by organic gardening experts. Internal wood stabilizer. Check it out at timberprocoatingsusa.com.
Wind River chimes will always be the inspiring harmony. With a large selection and customization options, you will find the sound that soothes you. Visit windriverchimes.com to shop and find out more.
Welcome back to the Garden with Joe and Holly radio show. Happy that you've joined us today. Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest for this week.
Dee Nash is an author, gardener, blogger, garden coach, and garden speaker. She enjoys gardening on her half-acre garden on her property in Oklahoma and telling her readers all about it. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, we appreciate the time you're going to offer us. And I'll start with this. You're a garden coach. What is that, and why would somebody utilize your services or a service of someone who has the title of a garden coach?
A garden coach is someone who basically holds the hands of people who they might be just getting into gardening, or they might be experienced gardeners, but say they moved from your state to mine and they don't know how to garden here. That would be one example. I have several people that are from out of state and they just don't know how. And then the other thing is sometimes people are brand new and they just need someone who can come in, help them know what plants work in their garden, what kind of compost to get, and just different things, how to water. But whatever they need, I'm there for them. And then I follow up with them, and then they can text me and ask me questions. In fact, I answered some tonight.
And with the wonderful advantage of technology, if you can't be there or whatever the case is, they can physically walk through the garden with their phone and you can coach them and go, this is that, or this is this, or stop doing that, or harvest this.
Right. When they're out of the city,
right.
I often do it over Zoom. And then sometimes we use FaceTime. And they'll walk around and do FaceTime, and then we come back to Zoom. And if we do it that way, I follow up with an email with all the details.
Right.
And I also do a drawing for them, too, just something simple. It's a lot less expensive than having a landscaper come out, and it's for people who actually want to garden.
Right. And you spoke about, helping someone who may have moved from our area to your area. Though those growing zones may be similar, there's a lot of things that are extremely different. Diseases
Very
and
different.
Bugs and soil condition, the whole deal. You might as well forget what you've known and start all over when you move somewhere else.
That's definitely true. Yeah.
So where did your passion from gardening come from? Is this a lifelong thing or something that came later on in life?
No, I started gardening probably in my teens with houseplants, the great introduction that many people have to gardening. And then, but I toddled behind my grandmother like so many other people. And she taught me a lot about gardening even when I was really small. I have an actual vision where I can see my little white shoes against the black dirt, those little training shoes. That's my first thought about gardening. And then my second one is she taught me about cabbage moths. And I still remember it. I was probably about 4 years old then. So I would walk along with her, and she meant everything to me. And so I loved her garden. It was beautiful. It was primarily a vegetable garden.
Now, did she instill this in you, hoping that you would pick it up, or was she like, you're going to learn this because you're going to need this later on in life, or a little bit of both?
I think she just loved it so much that it just came from her, and she always cooked all the food out of the garden, and she was a great cook. And I think it was just she liked to be with me, I liked to be with her, and she loved it, and I loved it too. I have a granddaughter now, and she's the same way. And it's everything is, Gigi, tell me this, Gigi, tell me that. So it sometimes skips your kids, but the grandchildren, you just have a special relationship with them.
Well, and all our grandparents, and you've probably had this experience, they could cook things that we can't duplicate because we don't know how much love they put into it.
That's right. It's all about love.
Definitely. So let's talk about your book, the 20 to 30 something garden guide, a no fuss down and dirty gardening 101 for anyone who wants to grow stuff. Tell us about, if our listeners pick up a copy, what they can expect, and why, maybe what would pique their interest.
Okay, so I wrote that book because all of my kids are in that age range, and they knew all about gardening because they lived out here with me and knew about chickens and all the things I did while they were growing up, but their friends didn't, and I wanted to leave a legacy, and so that's why I wrote the book. And it starts out, it makes a great housewarming gift, so a lot of people buy it for their friends or nieces or nephews, or sometimes for wedding gifts, and it's great with a basket with a trowel and some other things in it. And I start out with containers, and then we move on to raised beds, and then we move it into some in-ground stuff, and there are plans and all the different ways you can grow. It's primarily vegetable gardening, but the last plan that I drew is a circular garden, and it has both plants for pollinators and it also has vegetables. So it's starting out, like a garden coach, and just starting with the simplest thing and then moving on over to the more complicated things.
Well, I want to touch on the increase in temperatures this summer, and we see this for whatever reason, you fill in the blank, and we won't get into the discussion whether it's this or that, but we notice the temperatures getting warmer. You are in the Oklahoma area where temperatures get hot early and stay hot long time. What are some tips for hot weather gardening that you can offer most of us gardeners in the north that don't experience that type of heat that may be starting to in the years to come?
That's a tough one. So my biggest tip for anybody is know how you're going to water before summer comes, because when it's hot like that, you don't feel like getting out and watering your containers every day or your, regular gardens. I use drip irrigation throughout most of the garden, including most of my pots, and that helps. The other thing is, mulch is essential, and I think good compost is essential, and you can use compost as mulch or other biodegradable things. The main thing is, and I would say in our case in Oklahoma, our weather is just weird anymore. And we had a very long spring this year that was extremely wet, and that's not our norm. And that's when you guys got all the heat, because I watch the weather maps for the whole United States because I'm interested in how the patterns go. It's just different than it used to be. I will say our seasons are longer. I suspect you guys are having the same thing.
Yes.
You have to buy plants that can handle the heat. And I would say take your phone out with you into the garden, keep it in your pocket, and take pictures of things that did well. And, put them into your notes so that you can repeat those things next year.
And you said put them in your notes. And I was going to reference that because, we can take pictures with our phone, but sometimes our phones don't last as long, or they get dropped in the water or whatever, and the cloud's not always the greatest. Write it on a piece of paper. You
can totally write it on a piece of paper. I was actually thinking about notes that you would use with your computer because all my stuff is tied together.
Uh-huh.
But you can there are specialty notebooks you can take out that are water resistant and make notes in your garden. I think notes are very important.
And I love taking pictures with the phone, but I guess, being 41 years old, I'm old fashioned because I still like writing it on a piece of paper and seeing it instead of on a digital. Oh, it's on a piece of paper, so it can't disappear.
Right. My husband is like that.
Well, it can disappear, but yeah. You give a presentation about how to help the monarch butterflies. What are some things people can do to help?
Don't use pesticides in your garden. That's the first thing. And don't use. There was a new study that just came out, and I think it was in Scientific Digest, and it was again talking about neonicotinoids, which is a problem. That's a new study. But the biggest thing you can do besides not using pesticides in the garden is to plant milkweed. And now they're saying plant milkweed that is native to your region. So I don't know which ones are native to your region. I know that in mine, common milkweed is, and green milkweed, which is also called antelope milkweed. There are several. I think in Oklahoma we have 9 different ones because we're part of the prairie. So I assume you have several too. And so the more milkweed we plant, that helps because, they used to be on farms, and you're part of the migration path just like we are and just like Texas is and Kansas. And so what we're trying to do is get them from point A to point B. And so when they start to return down here, they have to have a food source. And that food source, it has to be, it's better if it's native. I know that I'm not going to get into, several people still use tropical. I'm not going to, judge them for that at all. It's just the newest data from everybody says that we should do native ones.
And there's over 140 different species of milkweed and around 100 native to North America. So if you don't know, ask your local extension office or your independent garden center. They will know the answer so you can get the right milkweed, because it doesn't do you any good if you plant stuff that grows native to South Carolina and you're in Iowa. It really doesn't help anybody out.
No, it doesn't, because they're just totally different types of milkweed and they won't flourish. So, for example, common milkweed flourishes really well in certain parts of my garden, but it is a colonizer, and you have to know that about native plants. Some of them are colonizers.
Well, with growing in Oklahoma and your garden, what is one of the challenges outside of the heat you have? I know at one point we spoke years ago, and it was, I think, rose bush rust was something that you guys had dealt with.
Rose rosette.
Okay.
Yeah. Rose rosette disease, which actually is now called rose rosette virus. And it did blow all the way through here and blew down into Texas, and it destroyed a lot of roses with it. Now, I guess the mites have moved on because we don't have as much trouble with it as we once did. So that's good news. What are we having trouble with now? Well, a wildfire blew through my neighborhood, and I mean my actual neighborhood, in 2023. So California, we have dry times just like California does. And that was in March of 2023, and it burned up my entire neighborhood. So I always tell people that it's very important to plant firewise around your house, and you can find that information through the National Forest Service and some other places. And I think there were a couple of reasons my house didn't burn down. There were only 6 houses left in my neighborhood and it blew through in 20 minutes.
Wow.
And it was caused by an electrical line blowing in the wind. So when those prairie winds come down, they can go up to 60, 80 miles an hour. And that was one of those days. So one of the reasons it didn't burn is I have a water system, and having an irrigation system really does help. It did burn up some of it, but I got it fixed. But the land around my house is not super dry, and I don't plant evergreens right up next to my house. That's a couple of things. For people who've never experienced that, I'm going to assume in 20 minutes you got time to get out and stay alive, and that's all you have to think about. You can't think about anything else. Yeah, you barely had time to do that. And the real miracle, and there were several miracles that day, and I don't say that lightly, no one died. And that was huge, because several people were older and they took naps in the afternoon, but everyone found them. But they had just enough time to get out, and that was it. Right. So that's something that's different. It's warmer than it used to be, and things dry out, and we definitely have fire times. So that's one thing. Well, Dee, we greatly appreciate the time you've offered. How can people find out more about you if they're in the area, get your request your services, and for the rest of us, pick up your book? You can get my book still on Amazon. It's still popular and it still sells, which I'm grateful for. As far as, I also have a podcast with Carol Michael out of Indiana, and we did that because we're both in the center of the United States and we're friends, and it's called The Garden Angelists. And you can find me with my blog, or you can find me on Instagram or Facebook. I never got into TikTok. It wasn't my thing, but I do love Instagram, and I post on there quite frequently and do videos and talk a lot about native plants and other plants that thrive well in your climate and in mine. Well, thank you so much for the time you've offered us and the information you've shared with Holly, myself, and all of our listeners. We are appreciative of that. It was so much fun. Thank you guys so much for inviting me. Thank you. And when we return, it's going to be your garden questions and our garden answers. You're tuned in to the Garden with Joey and Holly radio show.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
Are you bugged by bugs? You need naturally green products, No More Bugs, environmentally friendly. Made in the USA, No More Bugs is a cedar blend that repels and eliminates mosquitoes, no-see-ums, ticks, fleas, roaches, ants, and more. No More Bugs is safe for you, your pets, and plants. Available online at nomorebugs.net, Amazon, Walmart.com, and the Home Shopping Network. Jung Seed Company is a family-owned and operated seed company since 1907 with the largest selection of seeds and plants online. Use coupon code 10TG24 to save 10% off your order at jungseed.com. That coupon code is 10TG24 at jungseed.com for 10% off.
Your mosquito frustrations are over. Now with Mega Catch, suitable for residential and commercial use. Mega Catch mosquito traps produce a vast array of mosquito-attracted stimuli, including safe CO2, and can attract mosquitoes and other biting insects up to 150 feet away. Easy to use and set up. The Mega Catch is ready to make your outdoor space comfortable and enjoyable at megacatch.com. Use coupon code JOEYB, my name Joey B, at checkout and receive 20% discount on your entire trap order at megacatch.com.
Garden like a pro in 3 easy steps and receive customized fertilizer recommendations for your garden or lawn. Soil Savvy helps you determine what nutrients your plants need to thrive. Never again over-apply nutrients they don't need. A patented process that makes you a smart gardener. To get your soil test kit, go to mysoilsavvy.com.
Soil Diva Liquid Microbe Stimulant Spray improves the health of your plants you work hard to grow. Stimulates the natural enzymes and increases beneficial soil bacteria. Go to soildiva.net. Soildiva.net. Water supply tanks provide BPA-free, long-term, safe storage for drinking water from 35 to 1,500-gallon tanks. Water supply tanks has you covered. From preparing for unexpected needs, off-grid property, easy gardening access, and more. For questions and to order, visit watersupplytanks.com and use coupon code GARDENING10 to save 10% off your order. Welcome back to the Garden with Joy and Holly radio show. Happy you're with us. It's time for your garden questions and our garden answers. Send them on over to gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Or you can give us a call at give us a call toll free, coast to coast, at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469. If we can't get to you, leave a message. We will call you back with the answer to your question. Let's see what we can do, Holly.
All right. When does one pick cucumbers? All my cukes are green, but never had yellow ones.
Well, you want to pick them before. Okay, first of all, let's back up. It depends on the variety of cucumber. If you have white variety cucumbers, that's a thing. You need to pick them when they're white. If you have brown variety of cucumbers, you need to pick them when they're brown. So let's go with the traditional green variety, the pickling or the straight 8. When they become a dark green at a moderate size, something that you would be okay picking, you want to harvest them. If you harvest them too early, that's okay. When you harvest them too late, that is when they become yellow and they are maturing, and then they become bitter inside because they are working towards not developing but seed reproduction.
Right. And when we say brown cucumbers, they're more of like an earthy dark green. It's not like a brown. I would say like a brownish green, as opposed to like just brown.
But there's multiple varieties of cucumbers. It's just not green. And same thing with tomatoes. It's not just red tomatoes. There's multiple varieties of tomatoes that are available that you can grow, from purple to white to green and everything in between.
We grew some white cucumbers.
Yeah, we grew some white cucumbers.
I think they were a little sweeter. I can't remember.
I know the giant white tomatoes I felt was much, much sweeter than the red or purple tomatoes.
Yes. All right, so next question is, how is the best way to know when to harvest my sweet corn?
Okay, so when you harvest your sweet corn, there's really one significant way to tell when it's ready to go. The hairs, sweet corn is typically, you can pick it when the kernels are in the milky stage, which is usually about 18 to 20 days after the silk turns brown. That is the hairs coming out of the ear of corn. Now, not all the way brown to the husk, but the outer portion, 1 to 2 inches is brown. To check if the corn is in the milky stage, we're talking sweet corn here, you can pull back a little bit of the husk, and at the end of the ear, you can press your fingernail into the kernel, and if it squirts out a white milky substance, it's ready. If not, gently cover the husk back over the kernel ears and give it a couple more days. Once you get used to knowing when to harvest, you can just look at the ear and pretty much tell, especially if you're buying sweet corn, you can kind of tell it's a very firm, large density of an ear. And for people who may not be aware, the process of the sweet corn or any corn is the tassel, which contains the pollen, falls to the hairs. Each hair represents a kernel inside of the husk on the cob. So if the hair does not get pollinated, that is the bare spot when you you take the husk off and you see blotchiness of where it's just cob and no kernel because it wasn't pollinated correctly. That is why it's recommended to grow in blocks. Now, you will see the occasional image on social media where somebody has grown a ear or a stalk of corn in a 5-gallon bucket or a grow bag by itself. They don't really show the kernels on the cob, but it can be done. So, and there is a difference between sweet corn and agricultural field corn. Agricultural field corn, even in the milky state, is very bitter. It does not taste good. It doesn't have the sweetness that the sweet corn has. So they're very different even at the same stage. Now, you can, if you're wanting to save sweet corn, you've got a very nice patch of sweet corn, and you want to save seeds, you can harvest all the ears except for 1 or 2 and allow them to stay on the stalk and go through the natural dying off process like you would see the agricultural corn do. And in the fall, before it freezes, go ahead and take that ear corn off, husk it, and then you can let that kernels on the cob on that ear dry in an indirect cool area in your house, and then you can flake it off and dekernel it and put it in a marked bag and keep it in a cool, dry place until it is time to plant it next year. I am ready to planting my garden for next year and was told to only buy heirloom seeds. Is this true? And if so, why?
So it's up to your discretion. You can buy only heirloom seeds, but
what is an heirloom seed for those who are just regular gardeners that just kind of grab a pack of seeds that they see on sale at the garden center?
So heirloom seeds are the heirloom variety. They are the passed down variety.
Tried and true.
Yeah. Kind of, I don't want to say like the original seed, but kind of that concept where it's like this seed has been around for a long time. If you think about what an heirloom is, it's something that's been around for quite some time. And these heirloom seeds are, sometimes you don't even realize you're buying an heirloom variety because they've kind of just become the standard at times.
Open pollinated varieties of vegetables, flowers, and herbs that have been passed down through generations without breeding for at least 50 years. They have been passed down through generations.
There you go. 50 years.
Yeah, 50 years, yeah.
At least.
Maybe some of our listeners are heirloom.
Maybe.
I don't know if that is applying across spectrums there, but maybe.
Anyway. So you can buy only heirloom seeds. That's up to your discretion. That's what heirloom seeds are. Some people do think that hybrid seeds are bad for some reason, and there's a lot of information out there.
Hybrid does not equate to genetically modified.
Correct. And I think a lot of people get that in their head, or somebody on the internet said something, or
because that's true.
Neighbor,
if it's on the internet,
friend, whatever.
Misinformation.
Yeah. So. And then even, I don't know, conventional seeds, whatever you want to call them, just regular seeds.
Organic, standard seeds, yeah.
Yeah. I would just say those are just as fine as well. I'm a non-limited gardener. So, like, if I want to grow a variety, like early girl tomatoes, for example, I'm going to grow early girl tomatoes, even though I do like, heirloom variety tomatoes, but I also like a plethora of things.
The hybrids, there are some benefits to hybrids, meaning that they have been not genetically modified, but they have been adapted in a way in which some are more disease resistant to some of the newer problems that gardeners are facing. The old traditional heirlooms may not have that resistance that they have crossed into a drought tolerant or a bug resistance or rust this or powdery mildew that resistant. The new varieties may have that the old or heirloom varieties do not have the ability, the genetics in order to repel those or fight those specific problems you're going to face. As a raised bed gardener, I am clearing out my beds before the next planting. Do you recommend adding anything to the beds before I set my next crop in them? Well, you certainly can add a couple inches of compost. If you have had diseased problems, powdery mildew, squash vine borer, whatever the case is, you want to be aware of that and adapt to those particular needs, whether disturbing the soil. But if we're just going to go with everything's fine. You just harvested one thing and now you're ready to plant something else. About an inch of compost would be fine. Now, if you don't want to go buy bulk compost, though it is more affordable, maybe you don't need a ton or a yard of compost. You just need 2 or 3 bags. Now's a really good time to get it on sale at these garden centers because they're wanting to get rid of it. They don't want to store it. They don't want to have to do whatever they need to do to it. So an inch, and don't even mix it in. Don't even, just an inch of soil, a potting soil or compost on top, and then plant your seeds into it, water it in, and you're good to go. Well, with that being said, Holly, we're about ready to be good to go here. It's time for what we learned today. And I learned, and I did not know this from our guest, Dee Nash, that there are forest fires or fires in Oklahoma. Had no clue about that. I knew in the West, but in Oklahoma. So,
yeah, that was interesting. I learned about the seed bank in Norway. I knew about the seed bank in Norway, but I learned that it's kept at 0 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yep, and when we're all gone and there's nobody here, the seeds will be fine.
Yes.
What we learned today is brought to you by Honey Bee Healthy.
HoneyBeeHealthy.com is serious about the business of bees and helping beekeepers maintain healthy and thriving hives. Whether you're a professional beekeeper or a bee hobbyist, we've got the products to make you maintain a healthy hive. Honey Bee Healthy products are made in the USA. You can visit honeybeehealthy.com.
Tune in the program next week where we'll discuss the 5 keys to a better garden next year, as well as fall cleanup, what to clean up and what to leave. And our guest is author Leo Carver will be with us and will answer your garden questions. So until next week for
Holly Baird,
I'm Joy Baird, and we will see you in the garden.